weekly Daily Wednesdays, where we take a midweek break to cover all the things in the Linux world that we find kind of interesting, and we try to get this done in under 30 minutes or more, guaranteed, which is not guaranteed this week, ladies and gentlemen. But coming up, Thunderbird 52 has introduced Twitter integration. There's still no word on Tinder, so keep that in mind. And old man Microsoft has cronked out another Skype beta, and you better hope it works, since they kind of nerfed the previous version.
Fedora and Gnome welcome Ubuntu and Canonical. And they beg, pretty please follow our working procedures. Thank you. And Mark Shuttlesworth, his first communicate as the returning CEO of Canonical was controversial. We dissect the why.
Last week, Canonical ended the support for Unity 8, but the project still lives on with thanks to UBports. And there's a new social media platform. It's open source and fully decentralized. Instead of a tiny bluebird, it's a huge Mastodon.
That's terrifying. That's frightening, and you're such a hipster, man. But let's get right into this. Check it out from the register. Yes. All this with everything else will be in our show notes, but we are talking staff project shed as Ubuntu Canonical tries to lure investors. Shuttleworth, no part of the business has the sacred cows. Yeah, man. So you can say what you want about Canonical, but I think this is a good thing that, they're gaining a little bit of focus here, nixing some other projects. And from the article, they're saying, we're looking at between a 30 and 60% reduction in overall staff estimated, a total staff of around 700. The only departments that were really safe from this were support and consulting. But what are they doing? What are they trying to do? They're, they're doing all right. First of all, Shuttleworth said, hey, man, we're still making tens of millions of dollars in revenue, and we're growing, tens of %, whatever that's supposed to mean. That's an actual quote. But they kind of want to get Canonical in a position where it's kind of more attractive to investors. And Shuttleworth did kind of throw back. He says, there's no immediate plans for an IPO right now. So it's like, okay, this is not necessarily a bad thing.
It's except for the people who were working on
sucks.
Unity. That sucks for them. And I mean, it was expected that when they shut down the Unity 8 and Ubuntu mobile and touch projects, well, they would have to get rid of some people because that's, I mean, they had this reason. I mean, they want to reduce the costs. And it's not the happiest time for Unity developers, really, and all the mobile community and everything.
Yeah, and it sucks. Again, it really does suck that some people ended up losing their jobs, but he did say that there were some adjustments outside of the Unity group that ended up getting canned, and that's to be expected. People who had other talents who could help in other departments, they ended up doing so. And friend of the show, Ubuntu podcast co-host, Mr. Martin Wimpritz, did actually start off working in Unity 8, but he jumped ship a while back, and he is now working on the Snapcraft team. No, not the Minecraft server, the Snap package thing.
Okay,
yeah.
so
speaking of which,
yeah, man. I mean, Unity's completely dead. So long live. Wait, what's this?
This is the Fedora community and GNOME community welcoming Ubuntu into the fold, as it were. It's basically their way of saying you finally came to your senses and decided to use something that has more than one team of, in-house developers working on it. So this post here was made by Urius over at the gnome.org blogs. You'll be able to find the links in the show notes, as is tradition. And the entire Red Hat community, Fedora, Red Hat, what have yous, the Wayland community, they're saying, good, you finally figured it out. You're welcome here. Please make sure you contribute the way we would like you to contribute, but we will get to that a bit later on. Right now, he says that they're looking forward to working with Canonical and everyone in the Ubuntu community of projects of shared interest like GNOME, Wayland, and hopefully Flatpak. Strider?
Yeah, I do like that part as hopefully Flatpak parts, because okay, we all know that GNOME is such a big part. No, Flatpak is just such a big part of GNOME, but Canonical also have their snaps. So yeah, the GNOME team, they kind of hope that Canonical will also embrace the technology. It doesn't mean that they can't have both. So I do hope that they don't. I mean, it would make sense to ship GNOME with Flatpak enabled, and if they want snaps, I mean that's fine too. I mean,
That's definitely one of the beautiful things about Linux, though. You can pick and choose what you want to use, but if we're just going to be realistic about it, one of them's going to win, and I don't think it's going to rhyme with snap.
I know. And hold on, before we move on, there's one teeny tiny bit at the end of the article that he says, Canonical, Endless, Red Hat, and SUSE again share one desktop technology stack. I thought SUSE was a KDE-oriented effort on the desktop. When did that change?
Tuesday, 3 p.m.
All right, we can move on now.
So last week we talked about how the Unity 8 project was stopped by Canonical, and that's kind of like there was a whole community around the projects, not just Canonical, but just people working on apps and giving support for phones. So the project still now lives with UBports. So UBports, you might know them already because they provided Unity 8 support for devices that weren't officially supported by Canonical. So you could install Ubuntu Touch on the 1+1 or some old Nexus or whatever. And now they are taking care of everything. Everything, maybe not, because they are showing their interest into porting Unity 8 onto Wayland. They don't want to code on Mir anymore, but they will continue working on Unity. They're just, I mean, at this point, it seems that Mir doesn't really have a future anymore. So,
well, that's what I was about to say. Is like, you know who else doesn't want to work on Mir anymore?
Canonical. Because assuming Canonical had done the right thing from the start, and yes, I know Canonical doesn't contribute upstream, so they would have never, ever contributed those bits that they needed from Wayland that didn't exist. So what did? They created their own display server. Yeah, that's a good job, Canonical. How did that?
Yeah, and it worked. I mean, it worked on the mobiles, and I've tried it on my Nexus 4, and it was working fine.
It's definitely a thing, man. No, it's great. I want the project to keep on because something great could come out of Unity 8. See, that rhyme. Next story.
Next story. Well, this is, I guess, the meat of the question this week, and hopefully the last we'll hear of it for a while. Mark Shuttleworth, his very first statement on Google Plus after the whole Unity is going away, Mir is going away, it's dead. He said a couple of things. The post itself was unremarkable. It was completely run of the mill. But then there was a comment that he literally says, the whole Mir hate fest boggled my mind. It's free software that does something invisible really well. It became a political topic as irrational as climate change or gun control, where being on one side or the other was a sign of tribal allegiance. I almost got that without cracking up. Almost.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I mean, listen, what I'm about to say is just directed towards Shuttleworth because I know people that have worked and currently work at Ubuntu, and they're great people doing a good job. This is directed directly at that comment, which was, all right, I can't do it with a straight face either. Let me just say my piece here about Mir being mainstream. You know, the massive flaw in that statement is the delusion that Mir, Ubuntu Phone, Unity were ever considered mainstream by the community. They were not. And I personally don't think it's fair that Herr Shuttleworth, to take a swing at the Linux community because his company decided to invest time and resources into products that, really didn't have a market at the time. Now I can understand somebody, typing right now, but they were thinking 5 years out in the future. Those 5 years came up, man, and it just wasn't there. It was a bad business decision, and maybe those resources could have been well spent in other places. I'd never met somebody who was like, I can't stand Mir and I'm on this side. They were just like, why do we need a third display server, brah? What's the point? And that was kind of the end of their argument.
The thing that really boggles my mind here with these particular feelings of Mark's is that everyone else saw what Mir and Unity were. They were exclusive, a Ubuntu exclusive thing. No one else was adopting it. You can make the argument that yes, it was available for Arch and maybe even other distros, but no one really used it outside of Ubuntu. And in his mind, he's the oppressed visionary getting kicked while he's down by the mean, antisocial, his words, free software advocates. Now, he decided to single out the free software advocates and not say just the general Linux community. Maybe, that distinction wouldn't even be necessary if Canonical had started contributing upstream instead of I don't know, developing a very divisive desktop environment, a display server that no one needed or wanted to use, or, I don't know, a phone operating system relying on web apps wrapped in a sort of native-looking platform.
No, I don't want to make this about Mir or Unity, because I fully understand Mark and I agree with him, because there's a large part of the open source community that is completely useless in that they don't contribute to anything, but they feel entitled to spit their venom on stuff most of the time they haven't even used. And that's an important part. They haven't paid for it. They don't get to say, okay, I want this company to do this and this. They are not a customer. They haven't paid money.
So you're saying time isn't valuable?
It is, but Canonical, they manage their time as they want. They don't have to.
Yeah, how about the users?
They don't have to answer to anyone. And the users, Canonical has delivered their desktop every 6 months, and it was good. And outside of that, they do whatever the hell they want. And this creates, and it's not, I don't want to make this about Mir and Unity. It's the global ecosystem. And it's the same thing for everything. It creates a very toxic community. And for outsiders, it seems like very unwelcoming. And I do understand why there are some very technically proficient people who stay on the Windows and Mac because, from an outsider point of view, this doesn't look very welcoming. Yeah.
I don't know. I just
it's free software. It's free software. You don't pay for it. If you don't contribute back, then you just have to deal with it. And if a company wants to build something, they can, and you don't have a say in what they do. That's all.
Oh, okay. How French of you.
Okay, that's some hate mail for next week. But feedback, as it were.
The whole thing about that is I really don't want to make it about Unity or anything like that. The only thing I had to say was like, maybe you wanted to phrase that a little better next time before.
Just a bit.
Yeah, but Strider that's the way he talks all the time. Okay, what's new with GNOME?
Okay, so in the GNOME land, and hopefully this will be useful for Canonical as well. They have set up a new, it's kind of a mixed thing of like some pieces put together. So it's some sort of guide for new contributors for GNOME. And this has an IDE, so it's GNOME Builder, a wiki with lots of documentation on how to contribute, like send patches and stuff like this, Flatpak to install the whole stuff, and a collection of GNOME apps. So this is an initiative to make GNOME development more accessible, and this is a very welcome move. because sometimes, people say, oh, the GNOME documentation is not that good and stuff. So yeah, this is a very welcome move. It seems to be very centered around GNOME apps for the moment. So not really around software that is built with GNOME technologies. So because I could use this environment, but this currently not at this point. So I wanted to give it a try, but I got GNOME Builder installed and I managed to clone the projects and everything. Then it was complaining that I was missing a Flatpak dependency and I couldn't get it installed. So I stopped here. So it's very new, so it will get better over time.
I don't think this is so much something Canonical will need. I mean, they're big boys. They've been developing operating systems and other stuff for a long, long time, so chances are they know what they're doing. It's more the GNOME people just hoping that, okay, Canonical's coming over, they're using GNOME again. We gotta do something so that we and them have the exact same workflow ID.
I think it's a good idea, but let's not forget, if you rewind 5 or 6, the GNOME people aren't exactly known for getting along with everyone else either.
No.
So, I kind of agree. Let's make some popcorn, because the next few months are just going to be entertaining. So, speeding things back up. Yeah, version 52.0 of Thunderbird offered to release channel. A couple of new things in here. You got your DMs for Twitter, liking and favoriting, because we've all been clamoring for that. It does currently have support for the Jabber XMPP message carbons. If you want to keep the AM clients engaged in conversation, outbound messaging, carbon copied, all that fun stuff. And calendar events can now be created and edited in Tab. Yay? ?
That's good.
Yeah, I love Thunderbird. I use it all the time, but I'm on a very new distribution, so I'm on 1704, and I still have Thunderbird 45. So I hope I can get this through PPA or something, maybe.
I don't know. You're on the exact same version as 1604, so.
Yeah, I don't think they have upgraded this because since they are on the same release schedule as Debian, and Debian doesn't have Thunderbird, so they may have forgotten to update Thunderbird.
They do now.
I don't know.
Come on, we covered that bit of news. They do now.
I kind of like it. Sick. I mean, it's always good to see new things added to Thunderbird, but it kind of makes you wonder just a little bit and say, well, why don't we just focus on the one thing I use Thunderbird for? Checking my mail. Okay.
And the calendar.
Mastodon comes with a free fixie, can of PBR, some American spirits. It's kind of brilliant.
What happened to
Mastodon?
Diaspora?
What is it? It's a new social network. It's very similar to Twitter, but it's fully open source and it's fully decentralized. So currently there was one main instance of Mastodon, but it received so much traffic that it had to close the registration. But I think now there is something like 800 instances you can choose from. So yeah, it's pretty much decentralized. Other than that, it's basically Twitter. It has, instead of 140 characters, you can post 500 characters. And the UI looks a lot like TweetDeck if you use that. I do use TweetDeck for Twitter, so I'm very happy with this. Yeah, and other than that, I guess it's another social media platform for Linux users and free software enthusiasts.
Well, unfortunately, like most social networks, first of all, I tried it 2 weeks ago before I went mainstream.
Hips are bad.
Right. But like most social networks, especially like Google Plus or anything like that, it's a great time to get on at first, when all the techies are there and your friends, you're all talking about the same stuff. Then everyone else shows up and you're like, oh, I don't like it. I hope this doesn't pull a Peach, that weekend of Peaches has been known. Completely decentralized, completely open source. You can spool up your own server if you want. I got to sit down and play with it. I'm not 100% on this, Pedro. Do you think this will even be a thing a month from now, or are we just riding that hype train?
A month, 2 more weeks, and it'll fall into oblivion.
Okay.
Now, I like the decentralized aspect. It's basically pawning off the mirror costs on the users. What's that? You want to run your own instance? There you go.
Speaking of that, there was an article about the cost of running a Mastodon instance, and it seems to be pretty expensive because you will get maybe like 5 gigs of logs per day. So
okay, that's 5 gigs of logs per day is not all that bad, considering, I don't know, what Twitter, Facebook, even Google Plus, that ghost town of a social network. Yeah, that's nothing compared to those.
That's nothing, but for someone who fires up an instance like on their own server, you have to have a pretty beefy server to keep.
No, you see what's going to happen is people are going to fire up that instance, and then they're going, after a couple of days, it's like, oh, wow, I've just exceeded my bandwidth for this month.
Nolan, I kind of think it is compatible with New Social, or there's definitely some type of cross integration there. I'm going to definitely have to read more into that, but this is open source as well. And wow, we're talking about Nvidia and open source. I feel strange.
Yeah, so Alexandre Courbeau posted a message on Google Plus saying he was leaving Nvidia. So he was one of the contributors to the Nouveau driver. And I don't know who at Nvidia is working on the project, but it could be pretty bad because Nouveau needs people from Nvidia to work on the project to make it better. If it was only community driven like it was in the beginning, well, it wouldn't get very far. And the fact that there are people inside NVIDIA working on the project, that makes it like this allows the project to go somewhere. And now that is not here, I mean, there are some other people working on the project, but I do hope that they fill his position with someone else because...
Yeah, and we don't really know what goes on inside NVIDIA because they're usually pretty hush-hush about it. But one of our viewers, listeners, Mr. Aaron Plattner, he every now and again, he drops some pearls of wisdom regarding like file headers for the Tegra SoCs. He released, I think it was for the Kepler, the K1s, the K1 SoC, he released the header files for that a while back, and that helped because I'm guessing it wasn't, just goodwill. It's like, oh yeah, we kind of need Nouveau to work so we can have the Tegra SoC on our Shield tablet and whatnot with a reasonable amount of performance so that the JVM can get better performance. Yeah, but yeah, I know that at least Aaron has released that. I don't know if he's actually has, or if he had or has the same level of involvement as Alexandra did, but we'll see.
Worst case scenario, nothing really changes. Everything stays the same. I think what we really need to do is sit back and watch and see whether or not NVIDIA fills this position. But, NVIDIA is, like everyone just said, a bit of a black box. We may not ever know, but let's get crazy and run some Android apps on Linux again, or try to again.
Yes! Speaking of Android, this is NBox. It stands for, what did I say? Android in a box. That's the one.
Mostly, yeah.
Yeah, and you can run Android applications. You basically run a teeny tiny runtime of Android itself within, say, a snap package. See, that's something useful for snaps. That's agreeable. And my question is, I'll let you get to your bit in a second, Strider. What do we get in terms of Play Store usability?
Nothing yet.
Oh, good times. Okay, go on.
I think you mispronounced nothing ever.
I want the project to live because this is a very cool project. So it uses containers instead of a VM to run Android apps, and it's a truly brilliant idea. I mean, if this came to a full project and really working well, then it means that Unity 8, I mean, I know it's not a thing anymore, or maybe it is. It means that Unity 8 could run Android apps. So that was the missing part that would make Unity 8 very attractive.
You know, the only thing this desktop manager is missing, what? A VM.
A Java VM.
No, it's not a VM. That's the point. That's containers. But the thing is, the project is very early stage, and I installed a snap, but it complained about not being able to find EGL from the Nvidia drivers. So basically, it just crashed, and I couldn't get anything to run. The issue is on GitHub. It is a known issue, and I do hope it will get fixed because I want to try it. And yeah, I mean, you don't get anything with like the Play Store. You have to download your APKs and use those instead. But
basically sacrifice a goat to the elder gods and pray that it works.
Well, like all other previous incarnations of everything, there's like, we're going to run Android apps and all this. Nothing that you would ever want to run is going to run on this yet. But who knows? Skype. Yeah. 5.1, it's beta. Massive updates, said no one ever. Check this out. They've updated it to Electron 1.62. They have improved the installer scripts that register the Skype update and many smaller improvement and bug fixes we're not going to tell you about. Just download it and use it, suckers. Yeah, man.
Hey, how did that download go, Ben?
I gave it a shot. Use the link provided on that forum post. Again, everything in the notes. And it gave me a download to a version that immediately started up and said, hey, man, I'm no longer supported. Go Microsoft, man. True to form. Batting 1,000 on that one. Yeah, they didn't really change anything, I'm assuming. It still sounds like complete rubbish and sits and chews up all your megahertz when you're not doing anything. But I wonder why. Probably because it's Electron, and we need to have a little chat about that. Mm-hmm. Because turns out Electron is kind of flash for the desktop. Yeah, Seth.
It totally is.
Kind of threw this one down, man. And, I went looking around. He's like, yeah, it's just, he's mainly going off about Slack and, chewing up some battery, chewing up CPU cycles. And he's like, well, why do you want to run a VM effectively? Because that's what Chrome can be called these days. He's like, I know what I'm talking about. I even apologize for putting USB drivers in the Mac version because they're in there. And that's definitely a thing. And I was looking at, because one of the few Electron apps I currently use is Discord. And just for the chat client, it's about 139 megs of memory that thing's just doing. They're sitting there doing F and all. That, and my favorite thing about Electron apps is every single user interface has a completely different look and design to it. It's great.
Yeah, why would you hire a UI developer that knows his business instead of, oh, hey, I can code my own in HTML? Yeah. Now, there's one of the paragraphs he starts by saying, developers don't let friends write Electron apps. Thank you. Yes, please. Now, I can already hear Strider going off, just like spooling up the hate drive and saying, would you rather not get any of these applications on Linux instead? Well, to you, I say, if I'm going to be using a web version of something, I could just as easily do it from the 2 or 3 browsers I have currently installed already. I don't need another, albeit self-contained, browser window to run a freaking text editor.
So there's a thing. You can easily create desktop shortcuts for any web app from within Chrome.
Yes, and you're just making my point, Strider. I was hoping you would argue it.
And it won't create another Chrome instance. So it won't double the amount of RAM it needs. I still like web apps. I still use a bunch of web apps on my desktop. And I do have a couple of Electron apps, but I also have these Chrome shortcuts. I use that for TweetDeck, Wunderlist, Keep, Mastodon, and Feedly. And it makes, you don't get everything that you would get from Electron, maybe notifications and context menus or anything. But still, it's good enough for pretty much everything. So yeah, I'm kind of mixed on that one because I do like the Electron apps, but the way it's done, yeah, it's a memory hog and it's a CPU hog, and especially on laptops where it will keep on waking up the CPU and drain your battery life. That's really bad. So yeah, I do like the apps. I do like web apps. Web apps are great, but it could be done better.
It can absolutely be done better than you see companies. It's like, if you love Electron and you think it's great, just remember Microsoft thinks it's great too, and that's what Skype is. That's what I'm about to talk about. So you love Microsoft vicariously. Keep that in mind. Did you end up companies like Microsoft that says, a multimedia client that has VoIP, video, and all this fun stuff we're going to be doing, let's try to do it through Chrome and an Electron, and it is horrible. And yeah, it's just a bad idea. Don't do it. If you got a friend who's thinking about doing it, I know it's so easy to deploy. If you're going to do it, test your ass. All right? Yeah. Do that. Make sure it works. But we need to get into a slice of pie. But before we do that, Pedro, let's thank the beautiful, beautiful people who make this show possible.
Yes, many beautiful people who kick us a few shekels every single week over at patreon.com/Linux Gamecast. We're currently sitting pretty at $179 a week. Thank you very much, with 100 patrons. Woohoo! And we're coming in. We're about $21 away from forcing Jordan to play Sirius M3. That's going to be neat. If you do decide to back us up on Patreon, there are a couple of different levels at a single $1 a week. That's $4 a month.
Man,
it's pretty good.
It's like 16 quarters a week. You're getting 2 shows a week for that, and you're helping out the Linux cause and our special way of doing it. I mean, that's 2 shows a week.
And you get some extra stuff.
It's one of the best values on the internet.
Yep, and you also get the access to the Linux Gamecast Weekly pre-chosen, which is
a horrible idea
Linux
that we
Gamecast Weekly with all the spoilers and absolutely no filters anywhere.
And if you want to be, we're about done shilling, but stay with us. If you want to be like super cool and you're like, hey man, I see these people every week in IRC Wednesdays and Saturdays. Where do they hang out? Check this out. If you're watching the video, they come and hang out in general_disarray on our Discord server. That's right. Patreons get access to that, and that's where we are the other 5 days of the week. But if you're not really into the Patreon thing, you're like, hey man, is there another way? Is it possible? Check it out. We got affiliate links over at linuxgamecast.com. Hit the support. We got 4 countries. Pick one. Try to pick the one you're in. That'll probably work the best. We also have a little bit of a wish list for some stuff we would love for the studio and a couple of PayPal buttons. So you'd be like, hey man, I like the show, but I like the show like $10 much. That's it. Have had some of that. Well, thank you. You get a shout out on the show. It's going to be brilliant. But open your jowl organs, because we're about to put in some pie.
Ooh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I had some pie, but I finished it.
I had a bet with myself about that, whether or not you were going to be able to hold off nomming the entire pumpkin pie before we get to this segment.
Yeah, but speaking of pie, I bet you want a Raspberry Pi Zero or Raspberry Pi Zero W, and you have a hard time finding one. Well, we have something for you then. There's this website called the pilocator.com, and it will tell you where on the web or in stores you can find one. And it will tell you in which country you can, and it will tell you if you can get it, if it's sold out, or if you can pick it up in stores, or if you can order it online. It's very convenient because let's say that I usually get my pie stuff on Adafruit, and I can see on the website it's sold out, but I can see it's available on a bunch of other websites. So that's really cool.
Okay, Truggy's throwing in a little plug for Mod My Pie for people in Britannia, and that's kind of neat. I personally just ordered from wherever it's sold out. Then I squirrel because my memory lasts for 8 hours. And
then you give yourself a gift.
3 weeks later, it's present time. I was like, ooh, what did I order? And you really never know what it is. So we've shoved pies in everything, but using the Pi Z0, you're putting it in a NAS controller? What? That's madness.
So you may remember a while back, we covered the story that someone shoved a Raspberry Pi Zero into an SNES-style controller. Well, someone went full-on old school with this one, and they put the Pi Zero in an NES. Yep, the original NES controller. They got rid of the back plate of the controller, and they replaced it with a slightly bulkier 3D printed one. It's actually really neat. The video gives you, like, most of the details you will need if you're building your own. And as you can see, there is some room there. Besides the Pi Zero, you get a little bit of extra room, which you could use for your own modifications. Now, what really struck me is when they had the full finished thing, both the USB power and the HDMI were coming out from the top of the controller, which was what those people I mentioned earlier that built it into the SNES controller did wrong, because they had the HDMI out port coming from the bottom. Bad move.
Mm-hmm. I like the project, but I would like it to be like if there was just one single cable coming out of the controller, it would be so much better. And I've looked it up. Can you power up a Pi with the HDMI? Turns out you can't, but it would be so much cooler if you could.
Yeah, my first thought was like using a LiPo battery, like in a Vapotron or something like that. But, it could possibly get a bit splody and you're holding it with your finger organs. So that, it's like, how do you play games now with a stick in my mouth? And that probably doesn't want to be you in the future.
Well, there is an alternative now, USB 3.1 Type-C. It can handle both power and video. What can't are TVs or whatever display you happen to be connecting it to. That would require a splitter. So that's probably the hardest part, is finding a 3.1 splitter that would give you USB power and an HDMI connection.
Still cool as always. Cool. But one last little bit of Pi before we get out of here, and it's Nano Pi Neo. It lets you build your own NAS for about 30 quid. Plus the price of a hard drive. There's always a catch. Yeah. Okay, my first thought for you audio listeners, they blurred out the details of the HDD. And I'm like, really?
That's a Seagate drive.
Mm-hmm. And it's just a bit. Tell me about it, Strider. I've never. Why is this a good idea?
If you want to build a NAS with your Pi, it reminds me of one thing. It's the little box that Western Digital released a couple of months ago. Do you remember that? The one that came with a 314 gigabytes hard drive?
Yep.
That's basically the same thing. For a bit cheaper, for quite a bit cheaper. But still. Yeah. That's, it's cool. It's a cool thing.
Right now, it's a promotional price at $13, with the full price later on going up to $17. Still pretty good, comparatively.
Yeah, or if you want to be really adventurous, just do a search on eBay and you can find I probably have 5 of them.
That's how you get splitty things, man.
I am very familiar. I am very intimately familiar with splitty things, but you can get an aluminium case for the old 5 1/4 spinny drives for like, $3 a piece, and you can just get some duct tape and make your own for about $6.
Splody things.
Boom. Speaking of splody things, that has nothing to do with what I'm about to say next. That's going to do it for the Pi. If you want to talk to us, that is absolutely possible. Head over to linuxgamecast.com, hit the feedback button, select LWDW for Linux Weekly Daily Wednesdays, and let us know what you think. Some thoughts, hints, allegations, things better left unsaid. We want it all. And coming up first this week, Jonathan writes in, I think I missed it last week. It might have been the week before last. We were talking about HTOP. Actually, we were playing with HTOP before this show. If you go back and watch the live stream, he says HTOP graphs were improved last year. They can be reordered with enter and arrows, and there are new and improved display types selectable with space. Enjoy, HTOPers. See, bringing you some life pro tips. I kind of wish we had known that earlier.
That was a couple of weeks ago that there was a new version of HTOP out. Mm-hmm. They improved a bunch of things. You can, like he mentioned, reorient a bunch of the UI elements. You can also, they improved the tree sorting. So now that everything is where it should be, Good on them for that. Strider, got anything?
About HTOP? Yeah, no, I mean, I use the basic functionality of HTOP. And really, sometimes...
That's what it's there for. All right.
Yeah.
Up next, we have Mr. Satrak. And he's... I'm still screaming, what? WTF, man? Over the Mark Shuttlesworth Unity announcement. That's the one last week where Unity was dying. So what does a Unity guy do? Install KDE Neon and made it look like Unity. Done. Yeah, that works. You can totally do it.
Yeah, I've done that in the past, but currently I'm very happy with my GNOME Shell Unity lookalike. And it's pretty much spot on. I mean, it's...
I just love the fact that both of you were given examples. It's like, it looks like Unity, but it's functional.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't crash wine games. That's the big parts.
Yeah, I really don't have any stake in that. I've tried Unity multiple times. I have no irrational hate for the project. Never did. None from here. But with the Unity desktop, you throw 3 separate X screens at it, and it just trembles in fear and runs back from whence it came, man. It is not having that. But
yeah, it's nothing irrational. It's perfectly irrational to hate Unity.
Listen,
but it's bad now.
I don't have enough hate to go around, man. I didn't bring enough for the entire class, so I got to pick and choose where I throw that out. But that's going to do it for this lovely show and all the lovely people watching it. I've been Vin Stone. You can always find me there on the Twitters, the Twatters, or the elephant things that they're trying to bring back. That's horrible. Just at Vin Stone plus Vin Stone on the G pluses.
Those T waters. They can sound wrong if you think about it. But hey, I am Pedro Mateos. You can find me at unaccounted4, that's FOUR, on Twitter, or plus Pedro Mateos on Google+.
And you can find me on Twitter at Striker, on Google+, plus Mathieu Commandant. And I just signed up to Mastodon yesterday. So if you want to try that, I'm... Strider at Mastodon Rocks. I mean, there's so few people that you shouldn't have any trouble finding me anyway.
Okay, you heard him. Everyone get on Mastodon and make parody Strider accounts. It's going to be great. Until then, we'll see you next week. Pedro and I will be back Saturday. Where we're going to do, you think this show's unhinged? You haven't seen anything yet. Come join us, 9:30 p.m. And, hey, now it's time to say bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Come on, you can wave. You can do it, buddy. Little buddy, come on.
Lutris.net, go there.
Lutris, yeah. Right.
Lutris lives. Stay tuned for the credits. Ooh, Outcast got a second series. I gotta watch that.
Outcast? Mm-hmm. I think I missed that one.
I missed it intentionally for like a year and a half, and I ran out of stuff to watch. almost through it.
Right there, right with the credits roll. Yeah.
LGCK.